This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states.
Pancetta, mushroom, tortellini. You can eat smart, still fit in your bikini. I ordered Blue Apron, I've been happy ever since. They sent pre-portioned meals, I don't make no measurements. Saute the pancetta, then I add the mushrooms. Large skillet, cause you can't have too much room. Garlic pesto, tomato paste, Calabrian chili, season the taste. Order Blue Apron today.
Oh, the kettle's boiled. Excellent timing. I'll just make myself a quick cuppa, take a deep breath and pretend I know exactly what I'm doing. Right, let's get started. Have you ever woken up on a Sunday morning with massive anxiety and said to yourself, I'm never drinking again, only to find yourself waving $50 at a barman by happy hour? Do you ever wonder why everyone else can stop at 1 while you end up at a dodgy after party holding hands with a weird bloke called Disco Dave? If so, it might be time to take a closer look at your reliable social crutch, alcohol. On this podcast, I investigate my own deeply dysfunctional dealings with booze and find out what it's really like navigating this alcohol-drenched world, one fizzy water at a time. I'm going to open up a shame shed of humiliating drinking stories to help you understand why waking up with one eyebrow missing and a kebab sticking out of your top pocket might actually be negatively impacting your health. So what happens when you put down those cheeky pints and finally let go of those rewarding mummy wines? I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I'm Victoria Vanstone, and this is Sober Awkward. Right, here we go. Right, get this party started. Tea party, probably. More like it. Anyway, every time I come and sit down to do this podcast, I feel like I have literally had the most hectic morning in the whole world. There was a forgotten tennis racket, there was a forgotten laptop, and then I lost my phone. So actually, I've been at the school 3 times this morning and all sorts of annoying things. So anyway, I made it. I'm here. I'm in my kid's bedroom as per usual with chaos surrounding me. I'm not even going to... I might take a photograph of it actually just to prove that I'm not making this up. It is a total mess. Basically, I'm allergic to cleaning. I don't know if any of you know, but I have a dust allergy. So if I try and clean anything up, especially clothes, I sneeze my head off. Anyway, that's my excuse. Today's episode is all about finding the way back to you. And honestly, I think this is one of the best parts of sobriety. I didn't realise it at the time, but when I stopped drinking, it actually wasn't about removing the alcohol. It was about slowly, awkwardly, and often very painfully finding my way back to me and finding out who I was before booze even showed up in my life when I was sort of 13 or 14. It's unfortunate that it shows up at that age. The last few weeks, we've had a lot of chats about maturity and age and when you start drinking and when you stop. And in this episode, we're going to delve into a little bit about that too. Because I think when alcohol arrives in your life when you're a teenager, it's a difficult time and you're looking for things to make you feel more confident and more accepted, and you want to be something that perhaps everybody else wants rather than what you want. And maybe I didn't have a choice at that time. It was just an easy go-to. I spent most Friday nights passed out in recreation parks all over Oxfordshire and Berkshire. So I could never really say no to anyone, and that was a bit of a problem for me. I was a people pleaser, and I was a sheep, very much herded by the crowd from pub to club to bar, round after round, drink after drink, dodgy one-night stand after dodgy one-night stand, from festival to house party, and then to someone's kitchen at 3 a.m, talking shit and forgetting my own name. Anyway, I never really chose anything. I just followed the crowd. I followed trends, and I followed pretty much what I thought society and my peers were showing me was fun. My family were all huge drinkers. My brothers and sisters were all huge drinkers, and I never ever bothered to look outside of it. I followed whoever was holding the bottle, basically. My conformity meant I became other people in my drinking years to fit in. I swam along like a little fishy and I joined in. I did what everyone else was doing. So yeah, I never really carved my own path. And when you're constantly looking sideways, which I did all the time because I thought everybody was much cooler than me, you don't really look inward to who you actually are. I know me and Hamish recently did an episode about values, and this really comes up for me now. Like, I didn't have any values. I didn't know what I enjoyed. I didn't know who I was. I kind of lost my personality a bit in my drinking years. You know, the party animal was just so near the surface. It's the only person I bothered to show people. I could describe it as a slow drift from myself. So slow, in fact, that I didn't really even know it was happening. Certain parts of me got louder, the reckless bit and the people-pleasing bit and the crazy party girl bit, and other parts got a bit quieter. The thoughtful bit, the sensitive bit, and the bit that didn't actually want to be out again on a Saturday night. I had to go out every night because everybody else, and I had real fear of missing out. If my friends, I remember there was one day in Brighton in about 1997 where I slept through. And it was a Labour Party conference in Brighton, and all of my mates had gone out on a big drinking bender, dressed as Scousers for some reason. I don't know whether you remember that Harry Enfield sketch, which was like, calm down, calm down. They all dressed as those, and somehow were involved in the Labour Party conference, which was at the Metropolitan Hotel that day. Anyway, it sounded like brilliant fun, and I missed out. And I just thought, oh my God, I can't believe I've missed out on a night or a day, like a big bender. It just wasn't in my character to ever not be the centre of a big drinking event, basically. So I never knew who I was outside of that. It was only when I stopped following the crowd that I think I started to change. And that was when I got married and met my husband and saw that somebody accepted me for who I really am. So I kind of freed my individuality at that point. I stopped trying to fit in and I started to see who I actually am. It did happen a little bit before I started drinking because I knew I wanted children and I knew that acting like a crazy party animal all the time wasn't going to fit. And then when I gave up drinking, of course, that all came to the surface. Like, who am I now? But once I started to see, I started to notice what I enjoyed, what I valued, and what I didn't want anymore. Once I stopped following the herd, I became much more me, the authentic me. It was lovely and it was awkward and it's been a bit of a ride, but honestly, I can say it is the best part of sobriety for me. So I bet you're wondering why I'm blabbering on about that. But it's because today I'm joined by Mel Bampton. She's a writer, ABC radio host, and one of the original creative forces behind Like a Version on Triple J, a segment that's become an iconic part of Australian music culture. Beyond media, Mel's life is deeply rooted in yoga and self-inquiry, and she now works extensively in the space of therapeutic yoga, including addiction, recovery and mental health. I wanted to talk to Mel because her sobriety journey is not just about giving up alcohol. It's about returning to herself through that deep reflection. And for me, I'd kind of call that my sober overthinking that I do and analysing every situation now that my brain's sort of half working again. I know us sober weirdos love a bit of overworking minds. Anyway, her story is definitely in line with our theme today, finding your way back to you. Every time I meet Mel, we have such a laugh and we're always desperate to spend more time with each other, but we never ever quite manage it. She's one of those people I met in sobriety. We did a live show in Byron Bay together where we talked about our sober stories. I'm sort of glad we didn't meet until now because I think if we would have met as drinkers, I don't think either of us would have made it out alive. Before I ask Mel about finding her way back, I wanted to start with a broader question. Why does alcohol disconnect us from who we really are?
Oh, it's definitely the doozy of a question to start with because, and I don't think it's straightforward. There's part of me that after 15 years of sobriety also can see that there's alcohol in some ways hooks us back into something that's actually deeper in there that's trying to get out. But of course it does it in a way that creates a whole lot of regret and shame and poor choices and all of those things. And it just, literally, physically, physiologically, psychologically, it puts this liquid barrier between us and the external world, between us and our internal world. And we might need, or we might be using that in some way to be that lubricant that helps us to connect with others and to connect back with ourselves. But of course, once that's finished, once we wake up the next morning, you know, we're just left with the hangover and the poison and the toxic effects of the alcohol. What we were trying to hook into is so much more deeply buried because of those toxic effects of alcohol.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And it's sad a little bit, Mel, how we don't realise that's happening to us when it's, you know, fully in gear. We just think, well, isn't this fun? Whereas in fact, we don't realise that that roller coaster is taking part of us away from ourselves. And it took me a very, very long time to understand what alcohol was taking away from me rather than what it was giving me, which was generally just a good night out and then a horrible hangover. So it's really hard to notice the loss of self when you start drinking at a young age, because you're just not tuned into that side of life, of who you are, and you don't really care. I know I didn't care about myself. I just cared about where the next drink was coming from, who had a line of Coke in the toilets. I didn't know who I was at all. And I know that we have quite a similar drinking story, and whenever I chat to people on this podcast, it always makes me feel more comfortable when people tell their stories, because our stories are always so similar. How did yours start, Mel? Was it that sort of age, like early influences, feeling of lack of confidence?
I think if I look beyond initially anyway, the deeper reasons behind that, which of course they unfold in the same way that self-awareness unfolds. I mean, we don't become self-aware for a very long time. I mean, think about babies, how long it takes them as toddlers and then as children to have that intellectual awareness that they're even in a body, where we're like, what is this weird thing I'm traveling around in, you know, and they're getting used to their hands and feet and all the rest of it. And self-awareness is that sort of next unfurling. And I think that awareness of why we started drinking in terms of the deeper levels comes only with time, and often only with the time of sobriety. But I think on the superficial level, I mean, the reality of it is that I think being a good time person, I love to chat. I always love to chat. All of my report cards say has potential but talks too much. I was always very sort of restless in class. I love learning, but I didn't like learning in this very stuck way. But all of the rules, all of the rigidity, all of the, you know, the telling of the way that my path forward had to be was very bumpered. It's like, this is the way, and you have to go in this direction and do this, and you have to be still, and you have to stand tall, and you have to walk around with a book on your hand, and blah, 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 blah. It was a life full of rigidity and sort of that deportment thing. And that was at odds with who I was just as a kid. I was such a daydreamer. I could create a whole universe in my garden with my little pet rocks. And, you know, I could sit on a boulder in my little suburban backyard in the western suburbs of Brisbane, and I could be in the most magical universe. And if anything, I look back and I think probably more than anything else, it is that dreaming, that imagination that actually got me hooked into alcohol later, because as that diminished through my teen years and, you know, and through primary school, no doubt, and then through the teen years where it gets even worse, where the expectations on you become more to become boring and study in this way and then work that job and just become enslaved. But really it's diminishing the dreaming that we have when we're kids. We're so connected to things that are so beautiful and so magical. And I distinctly remember a feeling of grief through my teen years of those things fading, that magical sense that I had as a kid slowly fading away. And I remember being sad about that. And then and of course, everybody just getting angry at you all the time. Like everyone I just felt like was mad at me for just being who I was. Like as I started to be, you know, go deeper into my teen years, I got a little bit emo. I, you know, got into the whole kind of mod thing, which started with the paisley shirts and this different way of dressing. And then I started dyeing my hair black and I had black long fingernails, and it didn't mean anything to me. But these adults around me were overlaying this meaning onto it, or this fear, their own fears, onto me just exploring different creative ways of being that started to make me, I guess, feel bad about myself. And as well, talking to me in ways that when I was a little kid, they weren't talking to me. Of course, I'd get into trouble for things, but all of a sudden, the people who felt like your allies were, you know, yelling at you or giving me this feeling that I was naughty. And in the context of society, probably was naughty. But those ages of 14, 15, 16, that's not where you're coming from. You're like,
No.
you've still got that little kid in you that wants to play and wants to have a good time. And then everybody's just at you to do this, be like this, study this way. And it's just everything that's magical about your little self is just getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
totally agree. When I was little, I was very creative and I just wanted to do art and I wanted to do design. And when it came for me to choose my subjects at school, my parents were like, you've got to do French and you've got to do marketing. I remember they were like, you're going to be really good at sales, because it was about money. Like, you go to university, you get a job and you earn lots of money. That's what you should do. But I was shit at those things. I was rubbish. So I rebelled against them. And then because they saw that I wasn't doing what they expected me to do, then I felt like I wasn't good enough. And I totally resonate with what you're saying there, because I felt like everyone was kind of pissed off at me because I wasn't conforming.
it's like when you're a little kid and you get in trouble for something that until you got in trouble for it, you didn't know it was bad. And then that comes with those early, feelings of shame. And then it just accumulates over time. And we don't even know that it's a bad thing until somebody's yelling at us or somebody's embarrassing us in front of the whole class. And up until that moment in time, we might have just been having fun or being playful. And I think a lot of drinking actually starts from something as simple as that. Of course, a lot of alcohol consumption comes from things that are much deeper, much more traumatic than that. But if we look at that fundamental diminishing of what is beautiful and magical about every kid, regardless of their circumstances, and our circumstances determine really how quickly that magic diminishes, how sharply it diminishes, and how deeply it gets sucked back into the very center of us. And for a lot of adults, it never, ever gets to come out again, depending on the depth of that trauma that sits on top of it. So I think for me, the first time, I remember a little bottle, those little mini bar size bottles of Midori. My parents weren't really drinkers, but when my dad would travel, he'd bring those back from the mini bar from the hotel, and they all sat on this shelf that had these other glasses and knickknacks and, probably windmills because my mother's Dutch and other just weird shit. And I remember one day with my older sister, old enough for us to dawn on the reality that this was booze, and there's Fanta in the fridge, and there was also this green other soft drink that we had at the time from some unknown soft drink company that used to home deliver soft drinks to us. It was magical, that we could drink those two little bottles and replace them with the soft drink because they'd been sitting there for ages. And so I drank the orange one and my sister drank the green one. And I remember thinking, oh, it's really sweet. And then, oh my God, it burns. It burns, not mixing it with anything. But then, of course, the next thing was this little feeling of just everything being, I guess the comparison was to how it feels to be like a little kid all the time. Like, where you're just giggly and playful and we're rolling about and we're laughing. And it was probably that feeling more than anything else, that it was connecting me back to that was lost.
That is such an interesting point, because that's what you were searching for and that's what you were losing by trying to fit in. That's what you lose, is that feeling of youth and that feeling of being young and not having a care in the world. And then suddenly you're in a situation where everyone's trying to push you down and repress who you really want to be as a teenager because of your attitude, and probably because you've got a billion hormones rushing around in your body. And then suddenly there's this magical elixir handed to you that makes you feel all those things and not worry about everybody else's opinion of you. It's quite magical, isn't it?
You're like, there it is again. There's that feeling that I lost. I've been losing over these years, and there it is again. And it's acceptable, apart from the fact that, of course, I was underage drinking. But this elixir back to childish playfulness is allowed. It's actually encouraged. Once you're over 18, it's encouraged.
So
and when
true.
I think back on that now, where I think, all of these, so many adults, if we just ignore for a moment all of those deeper, again, those traumas, as I mentioned, if we just forget about the deeper stuff, I really believe that 95% of the reasons why we're drinking is because adults just want to feel childish and playful again. And this is a way in society that, for the most part, it's acceptable. It's accepted to do it in this way. You end up then kind of constantly chasing the butterfly. It's like it gives you that great sense, and then you get back into the monotony of being an adult and admin and and then it gives you a very quick doorway back into that. And then, but then of course, as we all know, the more that you do that, the more poor decision making plays out, and sometimes that decision making can be completely life-changing, life-destroying. Sometimes it's, it's a sliding scale of shame, essentially, based on how poor the decisions were the night before. But all we're really seeking is to come back to that playfulness that was lost.
Whenever I think about the joy that I feel in sobriety now, it is based around me feeling like a child again. One of the funniest points in our retreat that we had in Thailand in October was we did a silent disco on the last night, and I did it as a surprise. I bloody carried these things all the way from Australia, 20 headsets in this big bag, and I kept them a secret for the whole time. And I bought them out on the last night, and I played the chicken dance. Do you know the one?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Everybody went absolutely mad for it. It was brilliant. And I worked out, I was trying to play kind of some cool house music and like a bit of Ministry of Sound, and everybody be all cool and look at us. No, the chicken dance, the Macarena and Cotton Eye Joe. It was like we were all children again, dancing around in this beautiful kind of yoga sala in the middle of a jungle. It was the best thing. And I think that is what sober people want to do. We want to go back into those moments that we thought we could only do drunk and do them sober and feel that way. It's so good to dig into this today, because I've never really thought about it in that way, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to go back. We're trying to feel those same feelings that we felt free doing as children.
It's the giggling until we wet our pants. It's the shit talking until the break of dawn. It's the way that we collapse over each other's bodies without any inhibition of like your barrier and my barrier. That's all the things that kids do. They just do all of that naturally. And for whatever reason, somewhere along the way, we could potentially say patriarchy, all of that got just closed in, and the walls went up between us. And we're all just seeking a way to find our way back to each other.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. I haven't really dug into this topic before, actually. It's completely fascinating. I know that your story, you were in radio for many, many years, which you are again now. You've kind of come full circle, haven't you, Mel?
I really have.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about that, a bit about how your drinking turning point happened and how you changed your lifestyle so dramatically?
I am not one, probably like you, Vic, actually. We're not women who play small. In fact, small would make us probably dangerous to our loved ones because we don't have enough, enough places to place our big energy. So big projects save everyone from us. And so when I do things, I turn towards them fully and I go there. And I was the same with my sobriety. It took me a long time to get there, though. There was quite a lot of really, really ugly moments, quite a few overdoses from way too much drug intake and all of those things. And I had a job at that time being a presenter with Triple J where I could get away with all of that. And in fact, it was part and parcel. So it wasn't like I was having to really, clean myself up and then put on another sort of mask for my work. And I'd come into it like that already. It was not to blame by any means. That was me, and probably how I also in some ways landed up there, because I fitted that role as a presenter at Triple J and always being at shows and on tours and all of those things. But I'd had some very, very, very ugly moments, many, 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 where maybe people, of higher quality than me and better self-will and self-worth would have gone, oh my God, that is enough. That's enough. But it took a long time for me to draw a line, and quite a few moments where the universe was giving me a pretty hard slap around the face. But really, I think where it came down to where it was time is I guess it was probably a slow dawning, but one of the really distinctive moments was the last time I ever drank, and I'd hit the tequila pretty hard at that stage. When you've been drinking for a long time, it's like when you eat a lot of chocolate, is that you'll eat, one certain type of chocolate bar and then you're like, I'm so done with that. And then you move on to the next, and then you move on to the next, and then that's your next favorite. And you do the same with booze, right?
That has been coming for a minute. Sorry, carry on.
And Before you know it, you're drinking things like Baileys because you've drunk everything else that you could possibly imagine, and you're actually bored with it all, but you're just seeking new flavors. Anyway, I'd gotten to the point where tequila was kind of like, this is it. This is what I've got left. So all we're doing is going out and having shots of tequila, and every time saying, all right, all you need is one shot of tequila to get a party started. But no one ever ends there.
Wait, just tequila? So you wouldn't have beers beforehand, or you wouldn't have like a glass of wine, just starting on tequila?
Yes, it's time. Like as we're getting ready, it's just like, oh, I'm a bit tired. What can we do? It's tequila o'clock. And
Crazy.
And you just need that one. But of course, that didn't happen. And this particular night, there were friends of ours who'd loved tequila so much they'd moved to Mexico and they were back in the country. And so it was game on, donkeys. And we were driving home that night and we actually had, we'd gone out and it wasn't one of those like, hey, we're hitting the town and the clubs. It was, we're all going out as a family. We've got all the kids with us. We'd go to this, one of our favorite places in Byron, the Treehouse. We'd get wood-fired pizza and drink tequila. And, of course, too many tequilas on the drive home. All the kids are in the back of the car and my husband's driving and I'm just doing that. Like, okay, oh, kids, I must have eaten a bad pizza, and I'm vomiting out the window. And that led to a very, very significant hangover that really lasted about 2 weeks. But the next day after that big night, I'd booked us in. It was the start of school holidays, booked us all in to go to family yoga together. And we're a blended family, and all of those family moments where we were a whole were really important for us to continue to make sense of who we are. But I just remember this moment still so clear to me of lying in bed and it's time to go. And you're watching the clock from the moment you wake up and this is bad. Horrible. Okay, I've got 6 hours to kind of, feel better, get myself together. Now I've got 5 hours. Okay, after this vomit, I'll be good. 4 hours, 3 hours. And you're in that last hour and you're like, I'm just as bad as I was 5 hours before. And it's time to get ready. And, my husband, Shane, he's getting all the kids ready. I'm like, okay, no, I'm going to be good. And then it was time to go and I was no better. And I just sort of almost like in the movies where all their little faces are around the doorway and they're all different heights. And so all their little faces are one above the other. And then my husband at the top and they're all looking at me and they're like, are you ready? And I'm like, I can't go. I can't do it. And off they all went. And of course that was just one moment of many, but that was a really distinctive one for me of going, I can't keep doing this. My daughter by that stage was 13, and so I'd been doing that her whole life and with grave consequences to her sense of safety and well-being. And
Vic, so do you fancy coming on a sober holiday?
Don't worry, we're not talking about some corporate wellness retreat with cucumber water and enforced eye contact.
No, this is a sober awkward retreat. 8 days of sun, sweat, laughter and absolutely no hangovers.
Yep, it's all happening in Thailand next October. Picture this: yoga at sunrise, writing workshops, ice baths, Thai boxing and lots of awkward sober dancing under the stars.
It's a proper holiday with proper weirdos, our kind of people.
Yeah. You'll meet legends who've also given the booze a boot and want to have fun without feeling like a social reject.
Come solo or grab a mate. Bring your awkward, bring your sun cream. No pressure, no judgment, just a big, warm, sober hug in paradise.
All the info is at soberawkward.com/retreats. Come and get sweaty with us, emotionally and physically, in our all-inclusive jungle resort. You'll start out as 15 strangers and leave with 15 new sober mates.
I'm not sure I want 15 new sober mates, actually, particularly sober ones.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're not invited then.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Sorry, that's the bin out there. Can you hear the bin being?
Yeah, that's right.
It's really loud.
My dog's just gone mad. I think I've got a parcel being delivered as well. As my dog's attacking the postman. As I'm just sitting here, sort of cringing slightly, listening to you, but going, "Oh my god, I think there's an attack happening in the garden." There's always something goes on when you try and podcast.
It's kind of it was a relevant soundtrack because it was the bin, it was the garbage truck picking up the big skip bin, and all as I could hear was glass bottles breaking. And it was like, 15 years ago, a substantial amount of those bottles would have been mine, but now none. No,
now they're kombucha.
Maybe a pickle jar. That's it.
Yeah, that's about it. Some leftover infused almonds rattling around in the bottom of the bin. Yeah, sorry.
Oh gosh, how things change. So that day was really significant for me. It kind of hit me that it was time. And the thing was interesting that one hit me deeply. But what also happened is that my hangover didn't abate for nearly 2 weeks. So it wasn't just the case of, I'm by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm good. And you have that great feeling of like, yes, I've lived. Look at me. I've conquered. Yeah. But it didn't. And I was so poisoned. And I barely got out of bed for those 2 weeks. And that was it. That was the end for me. And I realized that I actually couldn't drink anymore. I was so poisoned and it was going to go horribly wrong for me in my body. And mind you, I had experiences like that previously where I felt I was going to die. And, particularly if there were drugs involved as well as the alcohol, I'm going to die. And my daughter's story is going to be that her mum died of a drug overdose. And those things, those moments where there was drugs involved had enabled me to give up any drug taking many years before. So that had already gone long before. The alcohol lingered for a long time after that. But that was that last moment for me. And that set in motion a very, very easy sobriety. And I think that it was because it was so much time. It was just the time. The timing was really, really right. I'd had enough moments of thinking about it, not really doing it, and then going, I'm ready. And I did have another crack about maybe 2.5 weeks later where I tried to get a beer down and my body just projectiled that mouthful straight out. And I was like, oh my gosh, how good is this? Like I actually can't even get it down.
Yeah,
thank you, universe. This is really great.
I mean, timing is so important, isn't it? Like sometimes the timing might be right. Like I had a drug overdose in my early 20s and I stopped taking drugs after that. But like you, I carried on drinking. But it took time for me to understand the damage. And it took a lot of events of me lying in bed feeling like I was dying with hangovers for me to understand that it was my time. My time was coming. And it might not feel for some people listening that their time is now, but that time will come and you will probably recognize it. And I loved what you said there about your sobriety being easy because of that. And because you had that sobriety capital, didn't you? You had everything around you set up for success, really. You have a loving family, you have work, you have a house, you have shelter, you're probably financially stable. And all of those things have to run alongside that timing for you to be able to have an easy sobriety, because for some people none of those things align, do they? And everything
absolutely.
Can be a bit of a mess and you're trying and failing and trying and failing, but once those things align, like they did for me too, it was perfect timing. And I knew it was time to step off the crazy bus and try a different way of living. And you certainly did delve into a different life, Mel, didn't you? Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so again, coming back to not doing things by halves, is that eventually, not immediately, but eventually after that initial moment, my first moment of sobriety, I'd already moved away from where I had previously lived. So I was in a beautiful new town. I'd moved up to the Northern Rivers of New South Wales, met my partner who would become my husband, bring our families together, as I mentioned. He was going through some similar changes where he'd always been, like me, the big drinker in his group. I was that in my group, and he was going into a world of yoga. And he'd been practicing yoga for a little while, similar to me. We had a yoga practice that had been going alongside some very hedonistic decisions, but it was something that could immediately fill the space once the alcohol consumption reduced, or in my case, stopped. with every less drink, every less one of those things, there was something already there that could pour in. And I had two things actually. It was yoga and surfing. And those two things could fill every single space. I mean, obviously not at the nighttime for surfing, but the next morning when you know that it could be a great day and there could be amazing waves the next morning. So it's just pouring in. And I think it's so helpful to have those things. Speaking of the setup, what are the things that you really love? If you don't know yet, but you're planning on getting sober, remember what they are. They might be things that you forgot about from your childhood. You know, these very natural reminders from your childhood where you go, oh, that's right, I used to love blah, blah, blah. Well, just that might actually be such a deep and natural love for you and you forgot about it, re-explore it. Or there's something that's tickling away at you where you're like, oh, I'd love to try that. Those things that you absolutely love are the things that you have to have at the ready. So for me, it was yoga and surfing. And so we really dove head on in. We both became yoga teachers. In my sobriety, we built our own yoga studio on our 2-acre property in the Northern Rivers. And that meant that our entire space had to be sort of exemplary to that. It set us up in a place in our community where it very much for me, I mean, my husband's very naturally like this, but for me, it kept me on the yoga straight and narrow, where if you're the yoga teacher, there's a certain expectation on you that you're going to have, you know, decent decision making about it's not, and it's certainly not a perfection thing, but if you're espousing certain things, particularly philosophically, you really have to live and breathe those, which at the same time was exactly what I needed. So whilst I was growing as a teacher, those studies were keeping me moving forwards in a direction that not just that I deeply needed, but my whole family needed. And so I also then, when my husband and I got married, I wanted to explore taking his last name, which also gave me a bit of an out to just put Mel Bampton on the shelf for a while. And there was quite a lot of reasons around that. I wanted a bit of a bubble around my whole family, that we just got to be Lissy and Shane Turner, yoga teachers with our yoga studio on our beautiful 2 acres. Our family was all part of that. It was part of wrapping our arms around the whole thing.
And it's such an identity shift, isn't it, what we're talking about? Like from being these massive drinkers and these party animals to being yoga teachers or people that like peace and quiet and connection and all these massive changes that we make. No wonder you wanted to shift away and just maybe try and be someone else for a bit. And somebody said to me recently, Mel, Vic, I never want to be like you, where your entire identity is your sobriety. And I said, it's not my entire identity, but in some ways it has to be, because I had to make that shift from one persona to another, which is exactly what you did. We have to make these choices to become someone different and to find our way back to who we were and who we now want to be. And that does mean completely transferring our identities from one person to another, which is the same as you.
And it teaches you that that's okay to do that. It's your life. Like, we might have multiple lifetimes. And of course, the teachings of yoga are that. It's all about reincarnation, that there's this body is finite. It's just matter. And of course, we know the matter will decay, but there's this part of us that will continue on and potentially have another form of matter. But in this particular lifetime, it's the only time we have in this lifetime, in this body. So be whatever. And a lot of that changing of identity is really helpful in dissolving those constraints that were put on us in the first place, that no doubt had a part to play in leading us to be boozers way back when. So when you go into your sobriety, yes, it can be scary to go, what will happen to me? What will people think of me? Will I have the same friends? Will my partner still love me? And all of that sort of stuff. And it would be dishonest to say that everything in that space stays the same. But if you're moving towards a place where you are starting to caretake and give yourself better, then if it changes, even though some of it might be painful initially, the changes in the long run are going to meet that positive progression that you are attempting to make. And so your friend caliber will elevate. Even if you absolutely love the friends that you have, the ones who are your real friends, they'll be there at the other side regardless. The ones where the friendship, even it might have felt so deep because of all those nights that you shit talked and you whatever, but they don't sustain, well, that's all they were. And then you're going to collect 100% all of these other people who come in and meet the new you, and then the new you and the new you and the new you, because you continue to evolve if you're doing really great things to support your sobriety. And it's not without effort, though. There's an effort that's, if my mental health is on a trajectory, particularly say perimenopause, which is this wild, crazy adventure, then if on a certain day my mental health is in a direction that is not easy, then I have to do something about that. I can either choose to do nothing and languish, or I can put some effort in and go, this is really hard actually for me to get up and just even move one arm and one good breath with it. But I know if I just move my one arm, then it's going to be really easy to move my other arm. And then I'll move both arms. And then I might take an exhale and forward fold. And the next minute you're away. You might do 15 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes of whatever, going for a walk, going for a surf, meditating, whatever these positive things are that do take effort. But with the effort, you will continue to evolve in a ways that you cannot ever foresee, until, coming back to the theme of this podcast, and where for me, for example, I've gone full loop. I've gone all the way back to the ABC, which is where I was 15 years ago, where I left all of that behind to go on this amazing, not always easy, and effort-filled odyssey, to 15 years later, come all the way back. Last year I went back to the ABC to explore who is Mel Bampton. So getting dusting Mel Bampton up off the shelf. She was covered in cobwebs and I was scared of a microphone.
Smelt of incense.
Yeah, stunk of patchouli. And going, all right, I'm going to amalgamate now Lissy Turner and Mel Bampton and step back into the place I was when I was at my heaviest drinking periods. Now it will give me the most amazing window to see. And not everybody is going to want to do full loop like that. But I've got to say that now it's a testament to me and hopefully to others, is that even if you change so much along the way, you make all of this different self-identity outfits that you try on and put down and pick up another one, and this one feels comfortable, that one doesn't, whatever. Do whatever you want. It's you. It's you. You get to do, you're an adult. You get to make those choices. If you want to explore going back to where you were to give yourself a chance to see who you are now, because you can have a comparison, do it and just experience bringing all of that fullest potential of you, which is the sober you that doesn't have a brain that's completely pickled, into this space and see how far you've come. Yeah. And for me, doing that in the last 12 months, when I thought that I would never speak into a microphone again. When Instagrams first started having the video function, people started to make videos rather than just post photos. There was no way. I was so insular, so introverted. I couldn't record myself into my own phone after a 20-year career behind a microphone. That's how much stuff I was dealing with through my sobriety, in amongst all the beauty and all of the amazingness of it. So to step back in the last year and be able to see myself fully in this environment that grew me up, which was in radio, to step back in there, go back on air, and within 10 months looking down a 2026 with these incredible opportunities of my choosing to be a profile broadcaster again for the ABC, completely sober and a better broadcaster than I ever was. It's just been the best.
Yeah, it's incredible, these full circle moments, and I do hear it a lot. If you'd asked me what I wanted to be when I was 13, I would have said I wanted to be on the radio and I want to do pottery and I want to be a writer. I never in a billion years believed that I could actually do any of those things. And unfortunately, when you get into heavy binge drinking, those dreams get put aside because you're just too preoccupied with the next party. And I certainly was preoccupied for many, many years. But when you pop out the other end of it all, you realise you do have the ability to do whatever you like. And that is what coming full circle is, whether you even knew it or not as a child, is that I am now going to do the things I thought I could never do. And you do it. You don't meander around a topic. You actually go ahead and do the things you've always wanted to do, which is incredible. I think a lot of people are scared to give up drinking because perhaps they don't know who they'll be without it. And I know that stops people, and that effort that you're talking about, it does take quite a lot of effort, and that can feel very, very, very hard, especially in the beginning. Were you scared who you were going to be when you gave up booze?
I don't think so, because I'd already had the big identity shift, which is when I left Triple J. When I left Triple J was the first time, because I'd been in radio for a long time to that point and started quite young. So when I left Triple J was the first time that I was in the world, not being Mel, Drive with Mel and Charlie or Mel in the Morning. And all of a sudden, which I wasn't expecting, I was like, I'm just out here in the world without this huge thing that propped me up and made me quite lazy, I must say, in my personality, because I didn't need, as soon as someone just said, what do you do? And I said, I'm on the radio at Triple J. I didn't even have to do anything else or say anything else. All I wanted to know about was that. So I think I got quite lazy in my personality. I wasn't really considering, am I a kind person? Am I a generous person? I'm just like, I've got this really cool job and that's all that matters. So of course, when I left that was the first time I really discovered that, hang on a minute, who are you without that? So having had that big moment of who am I, by the time it came to sobriety, that didn't affect me. It didn't affect me too much, but it did affect others. And that took me by surprise. There is particularly because of the leap that I made. When you look at people, and I can see it now that I look back on it, you see people who go sober and 1 minute they're trash bags and then the next minute they're trying to levitate, and they're chanting and you just think, what a wanker.
I always feel like I'm really hypocritical. I'm sober now and look how well I'm doing. But actually I've been a massive booze bag for 25 years. It's like, absolutely, I would have hated me now. So it's really hard to try and show that to people and go, look, I'm not trying to be a wanker. I'm actually still all right. I've got values now, which is incredible. And I care about things. And it can be really hard to try and explain yourself, can't it? It's like, I promise you, I'm not a wanker. I'm just more conscious.
But people also, they're not aware of all of the internal private processes that have gotten to that point. So I get it. For so many people in my world, it was like whiplash. It was like 1 minute I'm doing all of this and I had a reputation, like I was infamous and famous for doing just that. And the next minute I've got a nice long linen off-white robe, not quite a robe, but I had just nice flowy clothes on from being hardcore heavy rock music pig forever, loved to get shit-faced, loved a good time, could lead a good time on the most boring of occasions. And the next minute I'm this. But a lot of those people didn't realize that thread of yoga had always been with me. It had been with me since I was 20 when I first started doing yoga. So when it popped out as big as it did when I went sober, like the whiplash it gave others, it was really hard, even for some of my closest friends. But I look back on it now and I would have absolutely thought, what a tosspot.
Yeah.
Like, here's this person going, now we breathe like this and we move like this and then it's, it's all about love. And I was just being like, ugh. And but that's how my sobriety worked for me. But now where I find myself again, coming back to that full loop, is the moderate path. I'm still very much a sober person. My yoga practice is still such an important tool for me. But I'm going to say it right here on this podcast with you, Vic, is that this is my announcement that I'm actually completely retiring from teaching yoga. It served its purpose for me to this point to be a teacher. It held me, it held my family, it held our home space when we most needed it. But now it's just for me. In 2026, that's all come back to being just for me. It's my tool, my mechanism, my exploration. I don't want to be leading any others in that space now. I need to now go into that deeper journeying of what's my next layer.
I was about to book a session. Well, that's okay. I was looking forward to a bit
Too late, love. But I can
shanty.
point you in the direction of some lovely other people.
I know some people who are listening feel like they've lost themselves to alcohol. So how do you go back to who you are?
Oh, that's a good question. It just feels so comfortable. Like it's again, like for people where they've had to be a bit unsure about the name thing. But I just say to everybody, Lissy is still, that's me to the people who know me, love me in my community. I don't introduce myself. Like Mel Bampton is my public facing name. And Lissy brings all the close in close. And that's what I love. It's worked out so beautifully, even though for so many years it was such a juxtaposition, because every now and again I'm still doing things as Mel Bampton, but that is my radio name. And it makes sense for me to go back to that life as I have now and fully committedly in 2026 to be Mel Bampton, the radio broadcaster, presenter, and whatever else is on my path for not just this year, but going forwards, that of course it would be done under that name. That, you know, I grew up with a lot of my audience. We grew up together. So it makes sense that I'm rejoining them on the radio, and they can look back at their own stories and go, yeah, I've had a wiggly, windy path as well. Like yours has had 15 years of sobriety, but mine has had this and this and this. And it's almost like just timing, again, coming back to that magical timing, has met us all. Like my listeners who grew up with me on Triple J are now those who are listening to me on local radio, and we remember times together. You know, we remember events together, but here we are in our 50s.
Yeah.
And because we're Gen X, we're strong, we're still gritty, we're rebellious, we're amazing. But we're meeting ourselves in our 50s. So yeah, it's to kind of re-meet myself, that Mel Bampton who was, but who's sober. It's like everything, all of those loose ends, those two different pathways have tied up now into a lovely little bow. It's the sober Mel Bampton who's the full potential that probably little me always dreamed of being. Yeah. I'm healthy, I'm fit, I surf, I do yoga, I go on the radio, which is my absolute true love. I wake up in the mornings, I do my yoga practice, or sometimes in the middle of the night when I'm losing my shit because I'm perimenopausal and I've woken up at 3 a.m. And all of the pieces fit together now as a whole. And it feels so comfortable, I guess is the word that probably comes to mind more than anything.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like I'm still in the sticky part a bit of that perimenopause stuff. And like, I'm looking forward to the more powerful side of it once my mental health has kind of leveled out a bit. But I think there's a really strong message which I'm kind of trying to gather in my head before I say it. But throughout this, I think you and I, as we've grown as human beings throughout our years, there's a level of consciousness of what other people thought about us and what we had to give to others. And I think coming back to you, it often is about dropping and shedding the opinions of others to try and appease people or people please, however you want to put it. And when you suddenly do that, especially that happens when you get sober, you start to not care what other people think. And once you can put that aside and let go of that conformity that we experienced as youths and as we experience when we go sober for the first time, wondering who will accept us now, once you get rid of that feeling of who am I and who still likes me, it's all about whether you like yourself now and whether you're actually doing the things that you want to do. And once you start doing that, that's when sobriety really lifts and really enables you to step into it and step into who you are.
Absolutely. Totally could not agree with all of that and more. And also not really making the effort to make peace with all of your muck. Every single muck bit, muckiest of the muckiest of all of the muck that you've got. Just if you can own it all, you are, unfuckwithable. Yes. And because there's nothing anybody else can say to you where you don't then go, yeah.
It's so true. Just be proud of your fuck-uppery, because, you know, I'm doing this shared episodes of Sober Awkward on Thursdays where people write in their most terrible drinking stories. Because I'm like, let it go, guys. Like, let this shit go. We had a really funny one last week about this guy who woke up with a dog called Big Lassie. Anyway, you'll have to listen to it. It's a whole other story. But that is exactly, I totally believe in you. Like, letting go of that stuff. I wouldn't be sitting here with you doing this job that I thoroughly enjoy, chatting, if I hadn't given up drinking, and if I hadn't done all that shit. I wouldn't have any stories. I wouldn't have any growth, because I wouldn't have needed to grow up, which I had to do. So all of this stuff that happens in our life, it really does have meaning, and I don't have any shame or regret about any of it. I mean, there's a few stories perhaps that some dodgy blokes on nights out that were dragged back by me, hanging from chandeliers and all that sort of horrible thing. There's the occasional...
You know what? Even that stuff though, Vic, that's just like, so what? That's just all just living. Like, and that's us as creatures who also love pleasure, and we're completely unlocked and all of that stuff. And I've actually really learned, it took me a long time, and through lots of different phases, not just of my own processes, but with my kids as well, to really actually look back and love all of those parts, like all of the icky sex and all of the living life on the absolute edge of safety to myself and others. And I was very, very lucky that there's some huge stories that are part of my trajectory that I wouldn't want to live through again. That is for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't loathe little me like I used to. I'm not ashamed of little me, who was just a young one wanting to have such a good time. I wanted to live fully. And alcohol was the only leverage that I knew how to do that, because I hadn't been taught about how you live fully without something like that. I hadn't been taught how to live fully, full stop. And it took me all of that time to come back to that, to go, and in my 50s, it's so liberating. It's like, I want to live fully and be playful and silly. I can't shit talk to the break of dawn anymore. I do miss that, but I just fall asleep. But there's so many other cool things to do. So it's like, how do we find a way to just live fully in all of its fun and all of its grief and all of its everything, all the parts, and be in love with it all?
I think we both took the scenic route, didn't we? I think that's what we'll call it, via tequila and the occasional lamppost incident, probably. But I think the good news is, Mel, that you can always find your way back. And that's what sobriety is. It's finding your way back. And what a ride it is when you do, even if it's awkward, and even if, you know, no one told you sooner, you do find your way back, and sobriety allows you to see that. I just want to say thank you so much. I know we scrambled to fit this in today, and we've managed it with postman coming and bins being emptied. We've managed an amazing episode, and I truly appreciate your wisdom, because I know, how many years sober are you now?
15 this year.
Can't believe it. 15. Yeah, I think I'm 8 next month. So yeah, I still feel like a sober baby compared to you.
Well, it's if we're lucky enough, it's a long human life, right? And it gets even longer. Sobriety slows down time, and it comes to a point where we really start to cherish that slowing down of time, because, man, it moves fast every year, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'm just glad that I'm spending the afternoon cleaning the house rather than hanging off a chandelier, quite honestly.
Will be the cards. Yeah, the hanging off the chandelier, but sober.
Yeah, it's never going to happen. Let's not pretend. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you're questioning your relationship with booze, struggling to moderate, or your hangovers are causing anxiety, it might be time to reach out for some support. Talk to a mate, book in with your GP, go to an AA meeting, or find an online support group. I've got one. Just head to cuppa.community. For more resources, head to soberawkward.com, where you'll find details of our amazing Thailand sober holidays, the 30-day sobriety guide, books, blogs, writing courses, and loads more. I know this sobriety thingamajig can feel uncomfortable at first, but there is help out there. Find your community, connect, and start to feel the awkward and do it anyway. And if you've enjoyed the Sober Awkward podcast, please rate it, review it and share it with your mates. Because honestly, my mates are bored of hearing about it.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching your insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
After winter stillness, spring invites you to open things up. With Pura's spring collection, you can explore scents inspired by place. Sunlit terraces, blooming gardens, open air drifting through familiar rooms. It's not about starting over. It's about layering in something new. A small sensory shift that refreshes your space and how it feels to be in it. Open the door to spring this season and shop now at Pura.com.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
You're listening to Momarchy. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Tanya. And this is a podcast where two millennial moms get real about raising kids and making sense of the world.
We're calling out the BS, breaking down the headlines, and laughing through the mess. Because honestly, what else can we do?
So whether you're here to learn, vent, or just feel a little less alone,
we're so glad you're here. Hit subscribe and let's navigate the chaos together.
We're about to take the drama out of politics and the shame out of motherhood, because this is Momarchy.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
So, as you probably know, my comedy memoir, 1,000 Wasted Sundays, is officially out. All my magnificent fuck-uppery in one awkward hit. If you'd like to get your hands on a copy, it's now available from all good bookstores.
We always say all good bookstores, don't we?
Yeah.
Are there bad bookstores?
No, it's probably ones with moody sellers.
Oh, yeah, really depressed librarian folk.
Yes,
okay, good.
So there are probably some, but we're only storing it in the good ones.
It's only made it into the goodies.
You can also get it from all good online retailers. The print version and ebook are out now, and the audiobook will be available in March. I've been writing my memoir for 5 years. It will make you laugh, cry and cringe, and hopefully inspire a few people to reconsider their relationship with booze. If you love the podcast, then I think you'll love the book, even if I do say so myself. Hamish has read it. What did you think?
I feel like I know a little bit too much about you now, to be honest, Vic. Look, I really loved it. It was hilarious and surprisingly moving, but I feel like I've seen you naked in a literary sense. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's worrying.
Yeah. From an emotional point of view, seriously, it wobbled my teeny weeny wooden heart, Vic.
Okay.
My teeny little wooden heart.
Well, his wooden heart is broken. Anyway, so if you do manage to get your filthy mitts on a copy, please do me a favour and head to goodreads.com and give me a review. Doing that will help me get it out there to those that need a bit of sober support. So there you have it. My story, unwanted warts and all. Come and get awkward with me.
Not to be too demanding or anything, but seriously, go and buy it now.
Yeah, go and buy it. Go and buy it right now.
Yeah, don't just tell your friends, buy it, and then buy your friends one or two.
Yeah, don't give them a copy, buy it. Yeah.
And you know what? Don't be careful where you store it. If you lose it, you can always buy another 5.
Yeah, buy another one.
Yeah.